Maina, and I am Ashley Mazuri. Now, the push for constitutional reforms has kicked off in earnest, with President William Ruto indicating he will support the establishment of the office of the leader of the opposition. President Ruto has already written to both speakers of the National Assembly and the Senate, asking them to help facilitate the constitutional amendment to create the office. The president also appears keen to entrench the controversial National Constituency Development Fund (NGCDF), which has already been declared unconstitutional, but which MPs are adamant in having it in place. Just what is the significance of the president's new push and cost implication? While KTN's political affairs reporter Daniel Kariuki interrogates.
In a memo to the two speakers of the bicameral parliament, President William Ruto has proposed amendments to the constitution. In what seemed to be enactment of several proposals in the Building Bridges Initiative (BBI), the president wants members of the two houses to spearhead the process after the Supreme Court in the BBI case affirmed that the head of state lacks authority to initiate such changes to the constitution. Ruto has proposed the creation of an office of the official leader of opposition, proposing that Parliament considers an amendment to Chapter 9 of the Constitution to establish the office of official leader of opposition, whose functions will be provided for in subsequent laws enacted by the House.
Superior courts, as may be seized of the matter on appeal.
Some political analysts feel that the push for this office could be a way of assuaging Azimio leader Raila Odinga to stop his planned rallies to put the government on its toes. The memo is also seeking to resolve the long-standing stalemate on the implementation of the gender equality principle. President Ruto wants Parliament to initiate amendments to the country's supreme law to establish a formula that will guide the computation of the gender ratio in the National Assembly. That formula, according to the president, should be based only on the number of members elected in the National Assembly from the constituencies and counties. Therefore, based on the current numbers in the House, would see the deficit of 24 women MPs breached through nomination.
The Right Honourable Speaker of the National Assembly.
The extra cost, the president says, would be a smaller price to pay for compliance with the Constitution and resolve a 12-year standoff. Failure to abide by this requirement saw former Chief Justice David Maraga call for the dissolution of the 12th Parliament. The president also voiced his support for the Constitution Amendment Bill currently in Parliament, seeking to entrench the National Government Constituency Development Fund, the Senate Oversight and National Government Affirmative Action Funds in the Constitution. This amendment, he says, will help parliamentarians comply with the law instead of employing mischievous legalities and technicalities to deal with constitutional issues. The proposed constitutional amendments, according to the president, should be pursued without taking the Kenyan electorate through a referendum that is potentially divisive and disruptive months after the country came from a general election. It will cost Kenyans 20 billion shillings annually to cater for all the lawmakers if the proposal by the president is to be adopted. If the proposal is observed, members of parliament in both houses will increase from 416 and result in huge wage bill, with parliament's budget being 2% of the national budget, translating to 45 billion shillings. Daniel Kariuki, KTN News.
Let's now head to the western region, which has witnessed the beehive